Welcome to Progress Agentic RAG. Progress Agentic RAG is a comprehensive RAG as a service platform that enables you to build intelligent document search and question answering systems for your knowledge solutions. In this video, we will be guiding you through creating a smart RAG solution that uses multiple data sources, including a brief overview of Agentic RAG and workflows, and then using the workflow functionality to create an Agentic RAG solution that accesses multiple data sources. Note that when creating an Agentic RAG solution like the one in this video, you will need to create a knowledge box that is loaded with your documents and a couple JSON documents that hold your static data. For more information on knowledge boxes, refer to the Progress Agentic RAG documentation. In addition, this video is part of a series where we create workflows for different use cases. We recommend combining the different techniques described in these videos to create an agentic workflow that is best for you. You can create Agentic RAG solutions with Progress Agentic RAG by using agentic workflows. Agentic workflows for Progress Agentic RAG are automated processes that allow knowledge systems to return more meaningful results to complex questions and adapt their approach based on the task. Instead of simply retrieving documents and generating answers, they can be designed to orchestrate complex multi-source operations with decision-making capabilities. To help put the advantages of Agentic RAG in perspective, let's briefly compare using Agentic RAG with workflows against traditional RAG solutions. First, traditional RAG solutions fetch results from only a single knowledge source, while agentic workflows can access multiple internal and external sources in a coordinated operation. The sources traditional RAG use are typically the same knowledge base for every query, while agentic workflows can select from a variety of sources, as needed to properly answer the question. For traditional RAG, the retrieval is done once. This means, if the results do not successfully answer the query, there is no way to improve them. While agentic solutions autonomously assess results to make sure they are relevant. If they are not, the solution attempts additional retrievals until it gets what it needs to produce an answer. Finally, traditional RAG is limited to simply question and answer integrations, while agentic workflows can use complex reasoning and synthesis to provide responses to prompts. Before we get started, let's briefly describe our use case and outline what we are trying to achieve. In our example, we run a small baking website that includes recipes in our content. We would like to set up a new service that consists of a chat box that can analyze our recipes and direct users to local stores that stock the ingredients. However, our recipes are stored in our knowledge box in PDF format, and the stock information in the stores are stored in a static JSON collection. Therefore, we will need to create a workflow that merges responses from these two sources. Note: for the purposes of demonstration, we chose to store our store information on static JSON collections. For production environments, you might use a different source to retrieve similar data, such as a relational database or a REST endpoint. To set up our chat box, our workflow will need to meet the following requirements: access our knowledge box and JSON collection, and add a smart agent to route queries to the appropriate knowledge source. We are ready to get started. First, we will need to create our workflow. Navigate to your Progress RAG account, then click Create a Retrieval Agent. In the agent's profile window, provide an agent name, then select your region. We will name our agent Test, and then select USA region. Next, from the Agent Workflows view, click the Add Workflow button. Provide a name and, optionally, a description for your workflow. I'm going to use recipes and ingredients for the name, and a brief description. The canvas for your workflow opens. In this view, you can add and configure nodes to build your workflow. Notice the 4 stages that are used to build workflows: pre-process, retrieval context, generation, and post-process. Let's begin designing our workflow. The pre-process stage can specify rules to make the user query to perform better and is useful in many scenarios. However, we will not need it for our example. So, let's move on to the retrieval context stage. The retrieval context stage is used to configure how the workflow retrieves data from one or more of your sources, such as AI agents, databases, and knowledge boxes. In addition, you can add and configure decision-making behaviors to improve your results. Let's start by configuring our sources of data. First, click the Add button to add a node, then select Smart Agent. When configured, the Smart Agent will help plan our responses across and direct our queries to the appropriate documents in our knowledge source. From the Smart Agent view, scroll down to the Extra Prompt field. This field is used to provide a prompt that explains which nodes should be used to retrieve what types of information. You will want to use this if you are using multiple knowledge sources with your agent. Because our knowledge base has our recipes and our static agent with JSON documents contains our store information, we will specify something like: use the KB agent to get recipes, static agent for the groceries info. For the rest of the fields, the default configuration will be sufficient for our example problem. However, it's worth noting a few fields that you might want to consider configuring for your environment. First, let's discuss the planning mode option. This option specifies how your Smart Agent plans to retrieve data for a query. When set to reactive, the agent returns results once it believes it has enough information to answer the query. This option offers the best performance, but it might not always produce the best answer for larger knowledge sources and more complicated queries. Conversely, when set to plan execute, the agent first defines a plan, including the information needed, the questions it should ask the sources, and the different possibilities to consider. Next, the agent executes the plan and then generates a response. Essentially, the agent tries to be more thorough during discovery, but it does so at the expense of performance. Next, take note of the context validation, rephrase model, planner model, and executor model fields. These fields are used to select the LLM used for different node operations. For our example, it's fine to use the default. However, once you are ready to begin building your own workflows or move to production, you might want to select premium or specialized models to improve your results. Now, let's connect our agent to our knowledge base. On the Smart Agent node, click the Add button next to the Registered Agents branch. Then select Knowledge Box Basic Ask. This node allows us to access the recipes stored in our knowledge box. On the Knowledge Box Ask view, add a description of the node in the description field. The description informs the Smart Agent what kind of information can be retrieved from this knowledge box. Therefore, it's critical that you provide sufficient information for the agent to understand the contents of the node. For the purposes of demonstration, we will use something simple, such as list of recipes. However, for your environment, you will likely want to provide a more elaborate value. The description field acts like a prompt. Therefore, your value can consist of complex, plain language descriptions, including examples. Next, in the Functions field, select Ask Agent. Finally, scroll down to the Sources field and select your knowledge box. Then click Save. Now we are going to add the node for our store data. In a production environment, you might retrieve this data from a relational database or a REST endpoint. However, as I mentioned earlier, we are just going to use static JSON documents to make this example easier to demonstrate. To create a static data node, click the Add button next to the Registered Agents branch on the Smart Agent node. Then select Static Data. In the Static Context node, add a description of the node in the Description field. For example, list of groceries with their products and prices. In the Functions field, select Static Context. Scroll down to the Context and Structured fields. The Context field provides the request context, and the Structure provides the actual payload. Since we only have one JSON document, we will keep it simple and just copy and paste the same document into both fields. In the generation stage, you configure how your retrieved data is synthesized to produce an answer. You can add prompts, rules, decision-making flows, and more to best address your use case. For our example, we will be adding only a basic summarize node to synthesize a summary of our retrieved results. Similar to the other nodes, click the Add button for the generation stage, then select Summarize. In the Summarize view, you can see a number of options available, including changing to a different model or incorporating prompts to help generate our summary. However, for our example, the default settings are sufficient. The final stage, the post-process stage, is next and is used for configuring external calls and performing REMI evaluation of your workflows. Those aren't required for this workflow, but if you are interested in learning more, refer to the Progress Agentic RAG documentation. This completes the configuration of our workflow. Now that we are done, we should test it. Click the Test Agent feature button. In the input field, enter a query. Let's attempt a question that requires information from both our knowledge box and static data to answer. For example, which store has the most ingredients for banana bread? The test agent will then return a summary of results from each stage. And in the Summarize step, you can see the answer to our question, butter and bean. This is correct. Our workflow is now working and is ready to publish. Now that your workflow is complete, it is time to deliver it to your users. You can deliver your workflow using several different methods. One option is via the API. You can use this method by integrating the WebSocket endpoint in a custom front-end application. Another option is via an MCP server, which can be done by connecting the agent to any MCP-compliant application. And the final option is to embed the agent as a widget on your website. For our example, we will demonstrate creating a widget for our website. For more information on the API and MCP server options, refer to the Progress Agentic RAG documentation. To create the widget, select the Widgets tab, then click Create Widget. In the window, provide the name of your widget. I'm calling the widget Ingredients Widget. Next, select the workflow you want to assign to this widget. For example, the name of our workflow, Recipes and Ingredients. Optionally, you can select the theme of the widget and test your widget. To retrieve the code for your widget, click Embed Widget. Then, in the code snippet window, click Copy. When you are ready, paste the widget code into the HTML of your website. That's it. You've created and delivered your first agentic workflow. Thanks for watching. For additional resources, see the description below.